Hello YouTube, how is everyone doing? It's Professional here. Welcome to my first part of Mafia 2. So today is the anniversary of Mafia 2. Mafia 2 came out today, 15 years ago. 15 years ago today, Mafia 2 came out. One of the best open world games out there, one of the best story games out there, one of the best crime games, one of the best gangster games of all time. So we finished Mafia the Old Country, and chronologically, after and then we also did Mafia Definitive Edition. That was the next one after Mafia the Old Country, and now Mafia 2 would be chronologically next. And so we will actually be returning to Sicily in one mission, the World War II mission, which is, my cosplay here. If you're new to my channel, I do dress up as the characters from the games, and I'm gonna have a lot more Vito cosplays as we get through this series. But I played this game when it came out in 2010. I actually played this game when I was a kid. I do remember it. I remember the entire story. I remember everything that happens as well, so I can talk a lot about it. I'm also going to be talking a lot about the history. I'm playing the definitive edition of Mafia 2. And the reason for that is because I wanted to see the updated version of Tommy Angelo, because Tommy Angelo's face changes. He is in this game. His face changes a bit for the Mafia 2 Definitive Edition, making it seem more like his Mafia Definitive Edition appearance. I know that there's one glitch cutscene of Leo Galante. I know people are going to tell me about that, the eyes. But when we get to that cutscene in the game, I'm just going to replace that cutscene with the with the regular Mafia 2 footage of that cutscene. But anyways, I hope that you guys enjoy this series. If you do, drop a like. This option is suitable for skilled players who enjoy a challenge. Okay, let's do it hard.
My name is Vito Scaletta. I was born in Sicily in 1925. That little guy's me. I'm standing there with my parents and my sister Francesca in front of our old house. I don't really remember too much about the old country, except that we were pretty hard up. And then one day my father decided it was time to move away. Away from Sicily, across the ocean, to start a new life in America.
That guy there is Derek.
Never in my life had I seen anything as fantastic as Empire Bay. It was beautiful. On the other hand, I'd never seen anything filthier, more disgusting than our new shithole of an apartment. The American dream was more like a nightmare. My father started working at the port for the guy who arranged our immigration.
I do want to comment on here is that this Empire Bay is supposed to be based on New York City, where I'm from, and a lot of housing in New York City, also in Chicago as well, another notable city that had these issues, is tenement housings. A lot of working class people and also immigrants, they lived in these tenement homes, and what these apartments were very cramped apartments, and these apartments oftentimes had just one window. So there was just one window in the entire apartment. It was a kitchen, living room right there, and then there was also just usually one bedroom. and usually, you know, the entire family would just sleep in the in the exact same room. So it was very cramped conditions.
It was backbreaking work, and what little money he made mostly went towards booze. Eventually, my parents sent me to school. I had to learn English. I sure as hell wasn't going to do that in a neighborhood full of Italians. That's where I met Joe.
Come on, Vito, hurry it up. We ain't got all night.
Over time, Joe and I got to be best friends. And since we were both poor and there wasn't much work around, shit, we started a little business of our own.
Freeze! Police! Stop! Vito, this way! Throw him to bed! Stop! Run shoot!
Shit.
Okay, you bastard. Spread your legs.
Fuck.
Now put your hands on the fence.
I'm sorry, Vito. Well, that one time it didn't work out so good. The year was 1943. America was at war, and the army was looking for guys who spoke the language to help with the invasion of Sicily. I was 18, and anything seemed better than jail. Who says you can't go home again?
This is true a lot of times. If you did get arrested during World War II, you would be drafted and you would be sent. You would receive some training, but you'd be sent pretty quickly.
I was assigned to the 504th Parachute Infantry. On the 11th of July, we were supposed to be dropped over the southern coast of Sicily, but we got hit by flak and had to bail out, way behind enemy lines. Only 3 of us made it. If it wasn't for the local resistance, we wouldn't have had a chance. So when Mussolini's soldiers came into the town and started rounding everybody up, we decided to return the favor.
Se nessuno parla, quest'uomo morirà.
Let me change a few things here. Also gonna put on subtitles here. Yep, subtitles will have that on. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about the history and actually talk about what actually is happening. This is Operation Husky. Operation Husky, this was a real-life operation, and this was basically the American invasion of Sicily. It happened in July 1943, and by August 1943, all of Sicily was taken. And Sicily was the first American, the real first American major landing in Europe. A lot of people think that it's Normandy that happened in, June 1944, but no, it was Operation Husky. Operation Husky was not as big as, it was not as big as the Normandy invasion, which Normandy was the largest amphibious invasion in history, but Operation Husky was a very, very important theater of the war, and this essentially kind of knocked Italy out of the war, what this basically did. But let me explain. So, what happened was, a few months prior, in April 1943, there was this operation called Operation Mincemeat. And about Operation Mincemeat, what Operation Mincemeat was, it was one of the greatest deceptions in history. So Operation Mincemeat, this operation started really in the winter of 1943, but it went into full effect in April 1943. So what happened was, there was this homeless British man, and his name was Glindware Michael, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But about this guy, about Glindware Michael, what happened to him is that he was a homeless man. He suffered from extreme depression, which some people believe that he killed himself, but he ended up dying from ingesting rat poison. Now, some people think that he drank the rat poison, killing himself because he was suffering from depression, but other people think that it was an accident. But he didn't have like a huge amount of it in his system, but it was enough for him to kill himself. Now, the reason, I personally think that it was an accident. A lot of people think it was an accident. I don't think he did it intentionally because, for one, he did not have a huge amount of it. Somebody that was trying to kill themselves had a huge amount of it in their body. It was enough to kill him, but it wasn't like an enormous amount of it. The second thing is that rat poison is generally like, a horrible way for somebody to kill themselves, so I don't think that, he did that on purpose. And the third thing is that he probably accidentally ingested the rat poison. How that probably happened is he probably found bread that was outside, probably near garbage, and he ate that, and that was actually a pretty common tactic. What people would do is people would leave bread outside of, their businesses, their houses, their factories, and they would lace the bread with rat poison, hoping that the rats would eat it and it would just get rid of the rats in the area. But what happened was he most likely found some bread starving, and he ate it and then ended up dying from that. Now, the British at this time were actually commencing Operation Mincemeat. They were planning it out, but they wanted to find a body that was in relatively good condition, like a body that didn't, suffer, some major injuries. Somebody that they could basically say had drowned. And they found this guy. They found Glindwer. So what the British basically did was they took his body. I don't think he had any really known relatives at the time, and they took his body and they cleaned him up and they dressed him up and they pretended that he was a royal officer, Major William Martin. Now, what the plan with Operation Mincemeat is they would take this guy's body and they were gonna dump the body in the ocean off the coast of Spain, and they dumped him in a submarine. Now, Spain at this time was actually a neutral country. It had General Francisco Franco, who had come to power in the Spanish Civil War, but Spain was a fascist country. It was a fascist country, but it wasn't in World War II officially. It was technically neutral on paper, but they were way more sympathetic to Germany. They even sent, Spanish legions to fight on the Eastern Front. But about Spain is that what happened is when they dressed up this homeless guy as the royal officer, they dressed him up in the royal officer uniform, and what they did was they gave him a briefcase, and they put a handcuffs on him, and they put that leather briefcase attached to his hands, and they made it seem like he died in a plane crash in the water. And back then, a lot of officers, military officers, they would actually have handcuffs on their suitcases when they were walking around to make sure that nobody would take it from them. And so they basically tried to make it seem like he died in a plane crash. They dropped his body off in a submarine off the coast of Spain because they knew the Spanish would find it. A bunch of Spanish fishermen found the body and reported it to the Spanish government. Now, what was in the suitcase was waterproof itself. It was a leather suitcase, but it was waterproof. And what they did was the documents, they put them they dipped them a tiny bit in water beforehand to make it seem like they had been floating at water, but that was actually done before they actually dumped them. In the documents themselves they put on the body, they put in documents saying that the Allies were gonna land in Greece and also in Sardinia. Sardinia is actually a major island that is actually off the coast of Italy. It's on the left side of Italy, and there was actually a major German air base there. Now, this was basically to fool Hitler. The main target was Sicily. That was where they were planning on invading, was Sicily. But they put this homeless guy, and they pretended that he was a royal officer to basically trick the Germans into thinking that the invasion was going to happen in Greece. And what happened was Hitler had believed this. He fell for this. Hitler had actually read the documents himself. Hitler was believing himself that the invasion was actually going to happen in Greece. So even before this, he thought that the Allied invasion was going to happen in Greece, and that is probably one of the reasons that they actually chose that in the locations, because Hitler was one of the largest narcissists in history, probably the largest narcissist in history. Hitler never admitted that he was wrong. He never admitted that he made any mistakes. He always believed that he was smarter than everybody. Always thought that he was better than everybody, and him thinking that the invasion was going to happen in Greece, and then just putting in that notes, this basically, his narcissistic mind, he said, oh, this has to be it. However, though, Abwehr were the German intelligence units. They were basically the Nazi equivalent to the CIA at the time. They warned Hitler, and they told Hitler, this is probably a deception. They're not going to be invading through Greece, but Hitler did not listen to them. He didn't listen to the Abwehr. He said that they're going to be invading through Greece. And the thing about this is, the Allies invading through Greece makes no sense whatsoever, because it's a much farther route to Germany to invade through Greece, and it would be a much more difficult task to do so. Invading through Sicily is the key, because it would be getting to Germany quicker and also knocking Italy out of the war at the same time. Basically kill two birds with one stone. The main target is Germany, but you also knock out Italy, which is their ally. So I don't know why he believed that they were going to invade through Greece, and Greece is also a very mountainous country, especially in the north, and it would be horrible for the Allies to invade through Greece. So I don't know why he was thinking that they were going to invade through Greece. It was just stupid. He probably thought that they were going to help the Yugoslavian partisans that were fighting above Greece, but again, the main target was Sicily. And what happened was Sardinia, even though Sardinia was in Italy, Sardinia really didn't make much sense to be the target for the Allied invasion also, because Sicily just has much larger proximity towards mainland Italy itself. So it would be a lot easier to invade mainland Italy from Sicily than invading from Sardinia. But Hitler, took the bait, and Hitler had taken troops from Sicily, and he had basically taken them and put them in Sardinia and put them in Greece. Now, Alfred Jodl, one of Hitler's top generals, he warned Hitler, he told Hitler, this is this is too good to be true. This is too convenient for us. This is something is up, and he told them they're going to invade through Sicily. They're not going to invade through Greece. But Hitler dismissed him, said, no, 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 they are going to invade through Sicily. I mean, they're going to invade through Greece. They're going to go through Greece. They're not going to invade through Sicily. And he took away a lot of troops from Sicily, and he basically, reinforced Greece and Sardinia. And this made Sicily more vulnerable. So it was a massive deception. And what happened is when the invasion actually happened in Sicily, Hitler had gone into a rage about that, and he refused to admit that he was wrong. According to Karl Donitz, the admiral of the Kriegsmarine, Karl Donitz was apparently, according to him, Hitler was going in this crazy rant where he was saying that the Allies changed at the last minute. They changed their direction to Sicily. They were always planning on invading Greece. He would not admit that he was wrong, and he also blamed the Italians. And he said that Italy is the weak link in the Axis. Now, Italy was the weakest out of the three main countries in the Axis between Italy, Germany, and Japan. But what happened is when Operation Husky, when that invasion happened, the Grand Fascist Council, they were basically a group of these generals that had helped Mussolini come to power. They had never really opposed Mussolini at any point, but when that happened, they realized that it was over. The Grand Fascist Council, they realized that it was over, that the Americans were going to take Italy, and we had essentially lost the war. And basically trying to save themselves from, the consequences afterwards, they voted to remove Mussolini from power, and they got the king on their side. They told the king that support us in the king. The king also switched sides. The king agreed to have Mussolini removed from power. So they voted to have Mussolini removed from power the first time they opposed him, and Mussolini was arrested. Mussolini was actually arrested during that in July 1943, and what happened was Italy actually signed a peace treaty with the Allies in August 1943, essentially knocking them out of the war. Now, Germany got really angry, and what they did was they actually invaded Italy in that exact same month and year, August 1943, and the German Luftwaffe, they actually, with the German paratroopers, the Fallschirmjägers, they actually dropped paratroopers into Mussolini's mountain prison, and they released Mussolini from prison and had him basically create a fascist puppet state that was in the north, the Italian Social Republic. The king also fled when that happened. But about this is the king of Italy, King Emmanuel, he was not a good man. He was a massive scumbag. He was a terrible ruler. The only reason that he changed sides was because he realized that he was going to be on the losing side. That was essentially it. He was perfectly fine Mussolini doing everything he was doing until he realized that Italy was losing the war. But that was basically it. His Operation Husky was extremely important because it basically started the collapse of Italy, and had Mussolini had been removed from power and basically split Italy into two. That was what happened. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the history later on, but that was basically the backstory of Operation Mincemeat. The Spanish had actually shared this information with the Germans, and the Germans had believed it, and the British also made it seem more convincing because the British had demanded those documents back from the Spanish. So it was one of the greatest deceptions ever. There's a big saying that American logistics, British intelligence, and Soviet blood helped win the war. That's a very big saying that people say a lot of times. But that was basically the backstory on it. I hope that I didn't bore people too much with that. But anyways, let's continue from where we left off here.
All right, Scaletta. Take the shot.
Traditori! Pensavate di poter giocare con noi? Di tradirci? Avete pensato male!
What the hell
Vi
are you
facciamo
waiting
vedere
for?
noi
Take
come
out the guy
trattiamo
on
i
the steps.
traditori! Gli altri c'è nella resistenza! Rispondetemi, bastardi! O farò incendiare e rendere al suolo questo paese di merda! Chi vi... C'è qualcosa di zio!
And this is the exact same building that's in San Celestine, Mafia the Old Country. They did a pretty good job on it.
Corporal, this guy's saying there's more troops headed this way.
All right. You and Williams take out that MG, then find the prisoners. We're gonna need every man we can get. Ain't getting through this one. Looks like we found them. You got a grenade. Watch it. Put a grenade from the window. Whoa! Scaletta, you alive? Yeah, just about. Well, then get off your ass and let's move it.
One thing I do appreciate about Mafia 2 is it shows you the Italian army in World War II, which you almost never see in video games.
You can carry. This might be our last
R98,
chance.
MP40.
On the stairs! Hey, greaseball! Catch! No offense. Sei finito, idiota! Mi ha colpito, niente di serio. Must have the prisoners upstairs. Clear the second floor. Scaletta, you take point.
Exact same building that Enzo broke into.
Uccidete
Right
gli
behind
ostaggi!
Got him. The door, Scaletta. Kick it in.
Arrenditi, o gli faccio saltare il cervello.
Shit. Looks like we're going this way. Come on. Hey! Shit! These fuckers are it! What the fuck? This gets shot! Let's talk! Hey! Fine by me, asshole! Shit! This balcony isn't gonna work! We gotta keep moving! Let's get inside! Get inside!
Oh, this part, the MG42.
Dicevo al mio amico di stare attento. Fregatene di fare attenzione, fai ciò che ti è stato detto! Ma che diavolo sta dicendo? Chi si crede di essere?
This guy's a real person, by the way.
Cacetto, un congeco quando samaritano mi cucina. Ma chi è quello? Lo conoscete? Lo conoscono tutti. Don Calò è un uomo d'onore. È uno stupido trucco degli americani, non ditemi che gli credete. No, è davvero Don Calò. Ogni tanto dovresti ascoltare i consigli di noiazzi del posto. Ci rendiamo?
Sapete che potete fidarvi di me. Che ne dite, eh?
Don Carlo, the head of the Sicilian mob. An entire garrison of troops surrendered that day. Why? Because he told them to.
Okay, this is gonna be chapter 2. I guess we'll probably leave it off here, because it's probably a good part to leave the World War II chapter as a separate one. Let me actually talk about Don Calò a little bit here. Don Calò's real name was Calogero Vizzini, and he was referred to as the boss of the bosses. Very powerful mafioso that was in Sicily, and he was in power in Sicily for decades. Now, what happened was the fascists had actually tried to have him arrested in the 30s, but he ended up being acquitted, probably on corruption. But he was a very powerful and influential figure that was in Sicily. And yes, the Mafia did actually help the United States in World War II. The American Mafia actually did help in New York, where the American Mafia and Operation Underworld, I think Lucky Luciano was part of it, where they had a deal with the U.S. government, and the Mafia was basically supposed to keep an eye on the New York docks to make sure that there was no, German or Italian sabotage at the docks. They didn't really have to worry about the Japanese being at the docks in New York, but there was a fear that the Japanese would also be at the docks in California. But about Calogero Vizzini, he and there was other Mafia members that helped the Allies to during their advance and invasion into Sicily. Now, why did Don Calò help the United States? It's not necessarily that he cared about Sicily or he cared about the people. It was just more for his business interest, because Mussolini was extremely strict with the Mafia, and Mussolini had tried to destroy the Mafia, and that was basically their main reason, is they were hoping that with the U.S. coming in and they were basically being like in the middle of the war, that would actually be a lot easier to do business at that time. It would be a lot easier to get away with a lot of things. That was basically the primary reason for it. Now, what did Don Calò do? Don Calò is a controversial figure because there's debate on what he actually did exactly to help. He did provide intelligence on what the Sicilian mainland was like, where Italian troops were stationed. He had spies in a lot of places, generally stuff like that. He did convince some towns not to fight, not to resist. I didn't find like a proof about him making like an entire Italian garrison surrender, as you guys see in Mafia 2. That didn't really happen. It was more about him giving intelligence to the US on like where Italian troops were, coming into some towns, telling him to welcome the Americans as liberators. Now, what happened is, after World War II, Don Calò went into politics, and he actually tried to support the movement for the independence of Sicily, which was a party that wanted Sicily to actually break away from Italy and form its own independent country. The reason that this didn't happen is because the U.S. largely did not support this. The U.S. wanted Italy to stay united, especially with threats from the Soviet Union. The United States wanted all of Italy to basically be together, and so that movement kind of died. And he ended up basically switching to the Christian Democrats. Now, the Christian Democrats knew that they needed support from him in order to win elections in Sicily, because he had a lot of peasants on his side. There was a lot of poor people that had basically respected Don Calò. They saw him as like a man of honor. They saw him as like somebody that they truly respected. Don Calò was not a good man, but it was just like, with the Mafia, it was that a lot of poor people had sympathized with a lot of these gangsters. The reason that the poor had sympathized with these gangsters is because these gangsters had grown up very poor, like these peasants had grown up in Sicily. So a lot of times these gangsters basically came from nothing. And the poor really hated the government in Italy, specifically the North, which the North basically looked down on the Southern Italians like they were, peasants, like they were nothing to them. And so a lot of poor people ended up basically supporting the Mafia because they saw that he's one of our own, he came from poverty like us. That was basically the whole backstory. So he had a lot of peasants that were on his side, and the Christian Democrats had appealed to him basically for support. And Don Calò had died in 1954. He never really served any major time in prison. So he got away with most of his stuff. He made most of his money from protection rackets, similar to Don Teresi. He was also in the lemon business. He was also involved in smuggling especially in Sicily. But that was basically his backstory on that. But I guess we will wrap this up here. I hope that you guys enjoy the history. I'll have the next part of Mafia 2 as soon as I can. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, drop a like, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.